This is Photowrk. I'm Shannon, and over here is Mylan.
Hi.
And today we're talking with fashion photographer Dana Pennington.
Oh, yeah. Dana's cool. He's an in-house photographer for Boot Barn in L.A. He gives us some really cool stories of being on set. He's got things like life and death situations with horses and sharks.
Horses and sharks.
So,
I don't know how you do that, but Dana did that.
Yeah. He's also his keys to success. What else does he talk about?
We talk a little bit about the resurgence of film and
yeah.
just generally how he was able to be successful in the industry.
Yeah. So enjoy.
What's up, Dana?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Super excited to talk to you.
Yeah, awesome. This is going to be fun.
I know you have lots of stories.
No shortage there.
First, we'll start with like a way back story. Tell us how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I guess the condensed version is I had always had a vague interest in photography, like when I was a teenager and stuff like that, but never really took it seriously. And I wound up taking a photography class, it's just an art elective in college, and the professor kind of opened my eyes to like what you can do with the camera, and like the pictures can mean something and like be more than just what meets the eye, basically. And I kind of got hooked. But I was really crappy at art. Like, I was like, I don't want to be an art major because then I'm going to have to learn how to draw and paint and all this other crap that I have no interest in. So I became a photojournalism major. And so I studied photojournalism and eventually kind of got bored creatively and wanted to learn about lighting and other things like that. So I just started looking at other types of pictures, kind of found my way to fashion, and here I am.
Go for it.
Where did you start out at?
School-wise?
Yeah, or just where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Denver, so I went to college in Denver, Metro State in Denver, like downtown Denver. And I actually kind of bounced back and forth between schools, between there and the Art Institute, because I was like, do I want to try this commercial thing? Do I want to stick with photojournalism? And really, when I was in my early 20s, I had very little direction and a very short attention span.
Yep.
So I just kind of floundered around for a while, and then eventually was like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of go all in and try and figure this out on my own and do the freelance thing, and eventually moved out here. So I've been in LA now for about almost 5 years, I guess. Day after Christmas will be 5 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
You landed here day after Christmas.
I packed up my stuff on Christmas, and then I drove out the very next morning.
Dang.
Yeah, it was intense.
Were the roads pretty empty on that drive?
Oh, yeah. I was basically the only person.
Yep.
Crazy enough to be driving through the mountains on the day after Christmas.
Going through the
Denver to
Rockies
LA.
in winter.
Yeah. It was a good time.
How'd you prep for a move from Denver to LA?
So when I had lived in Denver, I was periodically taking trips out here just to like do some testing and things like that. So I knew the city pretty well, and I had spent a short time living in Miami. So I kind of like was starting to figure out the industry and things like that. So I sort of knew what I was getting into, but I basically I rented a place on Airbnb for a month, which was like this giant warehouse that had a photo studio in it. So I was like, I'll stay there for a month. I have a place to shoot, and I can find a more normal place to live. And I got there, and it's literally like a warehouse with 15 strangers. It was like a art frat house, basically. But it wound up being really fun, and I stayed there for 2 years.
That's
Hey.
cool.
So like we kind of had like our own little in-house production thing, and we shot a bunch of music videos and photography jobs, and that kind of became my foundation here in LA for the first 2 years at least.
Wow, we need to find that Airbnb.
It's gone now. It got shut down by the city.
I could see why.
Our neighbors didn't like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a good time.
That sounds
Artist frat house.
An artist frat house.
Yeah.
Those words don't really necessarily go together.
No, they really don't. It was like if you took an episode of The Real World and replaced all the like broy guys with like photographers and writers and videographers. So
Yeah.
It was
That's
interesting.
pretty wild, yeah.
Interesting to say the least.
So how long so you got here, you're living in the artist frat house. How long did you like really till you like your career like really just took off?
Definitely, I would say like that first year or so was super struggle. And like I said, I had been out here a lot before, so I had at least had relationships with modeling agencies and stuff like that, so I was able to start testing right away.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like seeing any jobs or anything like that for like the first year. I was just kind of like, I was working part-time at a retail job and like just trying to keep myself supported and things like that, keep a roof over my head, and just like testing on every day off. So I would say it was probably like a year before I started to see any kind of work come in, which that first year was scary.
Yeah. But you made it.
More or less.
Did you save up a bunch of money or anything?
No, because I'm not responsible. No, by basically, I had maybe like a month or two's worth of money saved, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna have to figure it out as I go.
I mean, that's better than some people. Some people come out here with like $200.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll take credit for that.
Yeah,
I had a little
there
bit
you go.
saved.
What is it? What do you think it takes to be successful in this industry?
Oh man, stubbornness. Like, but in all seriousness, like, you got to be really persistent, and you got to be able to like take a few punches and kind of keep coming back, because I feel like everybody sort of has that fumble moment, whether it's on a job or a test shoot or whatever, where you just kind of get gut checked a little bit, and you have to be able to kind of take that and learn from it. And I think that's a big thing. It's just being able to like keep on pushing through.
Wow.
Because it's not easy. Like, there's definitely going to be some challenges, especially if you're just starting out. But other than that, like, just you have to really want it. You gotta have that desire to like make pictures and tell stories and things like that.
Yeah.
Drive.
Yeah, you have to really want it. It's like gotta be what you live for. Like, it sounds super cliche, but it's kind of true.
Obsession, really.
Yeah, really. Like, you gotta like eat, sleep, breathe. Like, I want to do this. I want to take pictures, and I want to like create something, which for me was a struggle because I'm not generally very artistic. It's like I have got like one family member who's super artistic and super creative, and the rest of we're all kind of sticks in the mud. And so it was hard for me to just like have that just push, and sometimes I kind of had to force myself to like keep shooting, keep trying new things. And when I like had a few rough calls, it was like a real like intense moment for me just to step back and be like, wow, that hurt a lot, and now I'm gonna have to learn from it.
Yep. And keep going.
But you do. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
That's inspiring. It's
Yeah.
super inspiring. Because we can be like really sensitive as art. Like, I don't want to say like sensitive artists, but like as
But it's true,
like as your craft as a photographer,
Yeah.
I feel like you're just more sensitive in general.
Absolutely.
You know, and
For
to
sure.
have like a failure like on set or on a test or even after the fact is like you said.
You put a lot of yourself into what you do,
Right.
And when things don't necessarily go perfectly, it can be kind of like an immediate shock. Like, oh shit! Like, am I good enough to do this, or am I like just fooling around here? But you just gotta take it and learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and sucky people.
You will definitely have your fair share of encounters with crappy people.
Yeah.
Especially in LA. Like, there's a reason why there's a stereotype about LA people.
Right.
Because it's true. Like, just be prepared for that.
Yeah. There's some egos.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot of transplants here, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like hardly anybody is actually from LA.
Yeah.
It's just like when they get here, they get this complex, like, I'm an LA person now.
Yeah.
I have.
Like,
I've
it turns them
arrived.
into a douchebag.
Yes.
It's just kind of how it is. Especially if you have to deal with like actors or anything like that. Like, oh, I'm shooting some C-list actor that nobody's ever heard of, but he thinks he's the coolest guy in the world. Like, it's the worst.
Yeah.
So then, what made you fall in love with fashion?
It was at first it was just from a purely technical standpoint. I was like looking through, the girl that I was dating at the time was really into fashion, always had magazines around. And I was just kind of like flipping through them, bored one day in her bedroom, just like while she was getting ready or something. I was like, man, like this lighting looks really cool. I have no idea how to do that. Like, I kind of want to figure this out. And at first she was like, good luck with that. Like, have fun. Good luck. And I was
So
like, no,
super
seriously.
supportive.
Yeah. She's an ex for a reason. But I was like, no, seriously. Like, I really like the technical part of this. Like, it seemed really cool. It was like cool lighting, and of course you have beautiful models and these crazy locations, and that was what ultimately drew me to it in the first place. It's just like, it just looked really fancy. Like, I'm not a fancy person, so it was like, this is kind of interesting. And that was kind of where I got my start. It was just like trying to learn lighting. 'Cause that was kind of what I was drawn to, was the technical side of it.
Do you ever do lighting for other photographers?
A bit, not a ton. I honestly just don't really have too much time to like assist and stuff like that anymore. But when I first started, I did some assisting, and it was a lot of like trying to figure out lighting. And then I just, I spent countless hours on the internet, and, like watching every crappy YouTube behind the scenes video.
Yep.
It was, several years ago, YouTube wasn't what it is now, and people weren't vlogging every shoot that they did.
Right.
So it was like pausing a behind the scenes video from a Vogue shoot to like try and figure out what is that light, and then try and like recreate it, on my own. And most of them were miserable failures, but you kind of like with those failures, you like start to learn what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
And you kind of figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank God for YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, seriously. Learn everything on YouTube
Yep.
now. I'm like, why did
true.
I ever go to college?
Yeah. Why did I spend all that money? This is free.
This is free.
Yeah.
We want to talk to you about how do you market yourself here?
Oh God, I'm so bad at it. Honestly, like it truly is like probably my biggest weakness as like a business person is like self promotion and marketing. I do the whole social media thing, and I hate social media. Like I just kind of have to force myself to it, like Instagram and all of that. But I've done like some direct marketing, occasionally. Like for a long time, I was shooting a lot of swim stuff, so I would do like a swim promo every so often, and send those out to prospective clients, and just kind of like I would spend hours just not necessarily posting and interacting, but like scouring Instagram for like, oh, this model shot with this swim brand, I'm gonna go check them out, like, and see see what they're all about, see where they're located, and a lot of times it's just like, hey, I'm a photographer, please hire me, kind of thing. Send them a link to my website, or send them, if I could find an address, send them like an actual promo, which is kind of like I think an antiquated thing to some degree now, unless you're like super high level. But it's it's had some success and a lot of failure. But you send out 100 promos, if you get one client out of it, then kind of worth it.
Oh,
So,
yeah, for sure.
But social media is kind of the king of the day. At least I'm waiting on it to die. I'm not waiting on social media to die. I'm waiting on Instagram to die.
So what do you hate the most about it?
I think it, to some degree, really devalues the imagery. We kind of have built this culture of just like swiping past images and not stopping to look at them. And I think, we spend all this time and effort and money and energy creating what we think are beautiful images, and then we're looking at it on like a screen the size of our hand. Like that kind of bums me out as like somebody who, like I started in the darkroom and watching prints, process. It kind of bums me out a little bit. But I just sort of think it kind of has cheapened things a little bit, and it's really shortened our attention span. And my attention span is short as it is. So like I would like to get to a point where people are really stopping and critically looking at pictures again. And we'll see what happens. But right now, it's, Instagram is kind of the king of the day, so we kind of just have to suck it up and deal with it. And hopefully some developer out there is working on something cool.
Yeah.
Please somebody make something new.
What is something that you wish you knew before you got started?
Oh man, don't spend a ton of money on gear. Like honestly, I kind of was like, I fell in that sort of pit of like, oh, I need this, I need that, and you don't need anything. Like if you've got a camera, if you focus on like telling a story and creating something like a moment and an image that means something, like the lighting and the gear, like I like tech stuff because I'm kind of a nerd, but it's second to like telling a good story and creating a good moment. And like you can have the greatest lighting in the world, but if the content is dull, it's like you're limited there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wish I would have figured out a lot sooner, because I could have prioritized like putting money into like producing a cool shoot instead of putting money into that's something shiny and new and I want it.
Yeah.
So that for me was like a challenge in the beginning. It's just like it seemed really expensive, and it can be, but it doesn't have to be. Like LA is expensive, New York is expensive, Miami is expensive, and if you want to shoot fashion, you're probably going to end up in one of those places. Spend your money on like living and like putting money into shoots, as opposed to like, I want a $2,000 lens, or like I need pro photo lights. Eventually you can, sure, like work up to that, but you don't need it when you're first starting. Just like do something cool and original and tell a story.
Yes. Yeah, storytelling is a lot more difficult than going out and buying a Mark IV.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Amazon, like you can have a Mark IV tomorrow, but like to come up with an interesting, story, or spend that time like, or even if you want to spend money, like, find a cool location, like rent an Airbnb that's cool, or like go someplace interesting, take a trip with a model. Like that's if you want to spend money, that's like money better spent, in my opinion.
Yeah. What's been your experience with the resurgence of film?
I love shooting film. Like I said before, that's kind of where I got my start, and kind of got away from it because digital is super convenient. But at the top level of the industry, like that top 1%, it's like film never went away. But for most of us who are kind of grinding it out and like haven't established ourselves yet, digital is a more practical means to learn and things like that. But in the past, I guess probably a couple years, there seems to be like a huge resurgence of film. And even like I bought a film camera maybe 3 years ago and just kind of like started shooting some, like I would do a test shoot and I might shoot like 10 frames on my film camera, just really for fun. But then I kind of started to get really serious about shooting it again, probably like a year ago. And now like on pretty much every shoot I do, whether it's a job or a test, I'll shoot at least a roll or two just to have it, because I think it's like I said before, like it's a lot about, I think there's kind of an emphasis on story and moments and things like that. And film, just aesthetically, like it just looks good. It really lends itself to that. People are shying away from retouching now, and like shooting film is kind of a cool way to force yourself and to commit to that. I mean, like you can still retouch film, but it's definitely more of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And so like I personally started shooting a lot of film and kind of like really got a film bug, and I've been shooting a ton of it. Like the stuff that I shoot for work is still probably 99% digital, but almost all of my personal shoots for the last like 6 months or so have been probably the opposite of that, like 90% film and like 10% digital.
Wow.
It's just fun. Like I like seeing something tangible, and getting that negative. And like I started developing film in my kitchen, and that was just like, oh man, I felt like I was in college again in the darkroom, and it like really re-inspired me to like get out and shoot more, which I think sometimes, even if you're not trying to be like some kind of purist or anything like that, because I'm totally not, I still like digital. Just changing things up is like a good way to get re-inspired, and I think a lot of people are kind of rediscovering that.
Yeah.
Like there's some of my friends who are shooting a ton of film, and like I just think it's cool. It definitely has an aesthetic, and like people spend tons of money to try and make digital look like film. Yeah, just shoot film.
Yep.
Like you don't need a preset or or a Capture One style. Just go shoot a roll of film, and if it works, it's gonna look awesome, like pretty much. And if you don't, then oh well, it's a mystery. It's like getting a little surprise back when you get the film back.
Right.
You're like,
and I like that.
Yeah.
I shot that.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, oh wow, this is like, it just feels more real to me personally. But
So are you shooting black and white then, since you're doing it in your kitchen, or do you
no,
have, you
I'm
can
actually
do full color?
like I'm doing it backwards. I'm not developing any of my black and white stuff. I'm only developing color in my kitchen. Which
So you went the easy route.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like because I like to have to monitor the temperature constantly. Like that sounds like something right up my alley. It's super meticulous, but really, it's not as hard as I ever would have thought it was. I watched a YouTube video and then I was like, all right, I can do this. And it's spend an hour of your afternoon, develop 2 rolls at a time, and it's kind of therapeutic. And if you screw it up, that's kind of the scary part. It's like, oh man, I spent all this time shooting this. Hopefully, I don't mess up developing it. Knock on wood. So far, so good. But I'm sure it'll happen.
So what film stocks are you shooting?
So people like almost everybody I know is like a Portra fanboy. I'm a Kodak Gold 200 person because on one hand it's super cheap. It's got really rich colors. It's got like a nice grain structure. But the big thing is that it's super cheap. Like it costs like half of what Portra or Ektar or any of the other higher end, quote unquote higher end film stocks cost. And I like to shoot outside, so like 200 is a good like easy film speed to work with. And if I'm doing a job where I'm shooting digital simultaneously, I can just set both cameras to the same settings, and at least I know right offhand that I'm getting a good exposure.
Yeah.
It's got pretty forgiving latitude too, so I don't have to be super good at what I'm doing. I like that little security blanket, like, oh, this is half a stop overexposed. I'm not ruining it or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy how much latitude some of the film stocks have.
Yeah, and then some of them it's like none.
And then,
None,
yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I've messed up Ektar.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Like, plus, like Ektar, you get super red-looking people. I've messed up a lot of slide film, which sucks because it's really expensive.
Yeah.
But kind of like I'm trying to start shooting more slide film. I just got back from Moab, and I shot like I think 3 rolls of medium format slide film, which we'll see how that looks.
Was it Velvia?
Provia.
Provia.
Yeah, one of the Fuji ones.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what it looks like when I get that back.
I'm sure it'll have like super rich color.
I hope so.
Right?
It's like Utah. It's like there's so much like it's such a colorful place, and we're getting these like epic sunrises and epic sunsets. So hopefully I didn't screw up. We'll see.
Do you develop the slide film yourself
No.
too? Oh, okay, I was gonna say that's like
I'm not that
way
smart.
next
Not a
level.
glutton for punishment.
Yeah, exactly. I have my limits. No, I send that out just because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure I probably could figure it out, but I'd rather just send it out. And since I don't shoot that much of it, I don't really want to invest in
All the
Right.
chemicals and time and screwing up expensive film that I shot.
Yeah. So is it mostly medium format you're shooting in film, or are you shooting 35?
I would say it's like 50-50. You know, I've got like a Canon 35 and then a Fuji medium format. It's like a GA 645, so it's kind of like sort of a rangefinder, but sort of autofocus. It's I kind of say that it's like a medium format version of like a Contax G1,
Oh, okay.
but without interchangeable lenses.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
got
okay.
It's like a 30, roughly equates to like a 35 to 50 millimeter, like in 35 millimeter. But it's like part of the camera. It's like basically a giant
like-
point and shoot.
Like a
Yeah.
brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks cool. That's really why I bought it, because it looks cool. And I was like,
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't suck. And it actually takes great pictures. It's got like good
Did I-
glass.
Did I miss the frame size?
You
Or
said
the
645.
Yeah, it's a
645, okay.
645. Yeah. And
Sorry.
it's been a fun camera. I like it. That's probably like my favorite camera that I have right now.
That's cool.
Film is fun. Shoot
Yeah,
film.
no, it's so fun and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I also shoot like I always carry, I think it's over there, like a point and shoot 35 millimeter that I always
Oh,
keep
yeah.
a roll of Triaxin, and that kind of call that like my behind the scenes, my personal life diary,
Yeah.
pictures of friends, like whatever stuff like that. And I pretty much have that with me all the time, just because you never know when something funny is gonna happen
Oh yeah.
that needs documenting.
Yeah. Oh, and Tri-X is so nice.
Yeah, it's classic. Like it just
Yeah.
looks good.
Probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's, like as far as black and white goes, like it looks
Just
so
beautiful.
good.
Yeah.
And I think it lends itself really well to like everyday life, and because it feels real.
Yeah.
What does fashion photography mean to you?
I think in a nutshell, it's kind of where art meets commerce. You know, ultimately we're trying to sell a product, but trying to do it the most creative way possible. And sometimes it can be super rudimentary, like e-commerce is super straightforward, not that fun. But it can also be super creative and really cool and a lot of fun. So ultimately, I think that's kind of where the niche that fashion falls into, is trying to use something creative to ultimately sell a product. But at the end of the day, it's like telling a story with clothes is kind of the end goal. You know, like tell a cool story, utilizing the medium of fashion, which is, you know, it's a $1 trillion market, and it's a huge economy. So it kind of doesn't matter, but at the same time, it really matters, which I think is cool. It's just like a lot of people sort of lose sight of that. You're selling clothes part. You kind of have to maintain that to some degree.
What do they do? Just like too big of egos, or they're just more portrait? Like they're just too portrait?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people can go the way of like being too portraity or too glammy, but depending on what type of fashion you're into, like you just sort of have to always have that in mind. Like, are there clothes here? Do they look good? Is this something commercially viable? And if you want to be successful as a commercial photographer, you have to be able to like execute your vision, but also cater to who your client is and what they want to sell. Because like having a great picture is awesome, but if it's not going to sell their product, they're ultimately not going to be happy with it. And you kind of have to one of the biggest challenges is finding that happy medium where like you're being true to yourself as an artist, if you want to call yourself that, but also being kind of a technician in executing a commercial vision.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds.
I think so. At times.
At times, yeah, I know. How do you feel when it gets way too commercial? Does that bother you?
It does. Yeah, and it inevitably happens to everybody. You're going to have like that job where it's like, we hired you because we like what you do, but we're going to ask you to do the most basic stuff that you've ever done in your life. And it's a drag, but it's just part of it. And, you know, if you're working freelance, you just have to, you know, keep in your mind like, A, I need this money, so just do it. And B, like, there's always going to be an opportunity to shoot something else that you think is better tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And you just kind of have to some degree, you just kind of got to suck it up. Like, because it, you know, it is what the industry that we work in, and the client that's paying the bills, it's kind of like what they want. I personally think it's best to sort of teach your clients, you know, like a better, like this could look better and still accomplish your goal.
Yeah.
Which is hard for some people. You know, you put a lot of yourself and you kind of develop some degree of ego no matter who you are. But you kind of have to be a little political about it. But it does happen. You know, you're going to have that. Eventually, you're going to have a job where you're like, I'm not into this.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Get it done.
Get it done.
a bad day of shooting fashion is better than any day in a cubicle.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
What's something you could tell an aspiring fashion photographer, someone coming up in the world or wanting to come up in the world, I guess?
there's probably two things that I think are really important. The first thing that I would tell them is if you can, assist. Like, if you look at a lot of today's top photographers, they used to be yesterday's top photographers' assistants. If I could go back and move to New York when I was right out of high school or something like that and just like grind it out as an assistant, A, I would probably be a lot more talented than I am now, and B, I would probably be a lot further along in my career and would have had experiences that you just can't get elsewhere. If that's a viable option for any of you guys out there, like, just do it. Like, take the risk, take the leap of faith, go out and, you know, try and become Steven Meisel's assistant. Like, you will learn so much that way that you're just never going to learn anywhere else. And the second thing that I would tell people is have something that you want to say. And it's something that I completely lost in myself that I've been kind of trying to, like, rediscover. Is just, like, have a viewpoint. Like, try and tell something. You know, say something with what your images are. If you want to convey, like, you know, a romantic image, then go all in with that. And if you want to, you know, if you really like youthful energy, like, have that be your thing and just, you know, own it. You know, don't try and do a little bit of everything. Just, like, find your voice and stick to it, because it's going to feel more, your images are going to feel more genuine. People will, like, buy into it better than if you're just trying to cater to what seems like it's going to be popular at the moment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you found yourself again and what you want to say again in your images?
I think I'm finding it. I don't want to fully commit to that. But, yeah, I mean, like, you know, I kind of got lost in the, like, I have to keep a roof over my head and I need to make money and things like that. And that's fine because, like, we all have to, you know, pay our bills and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you want to, you know, if you want to shoot personal work or editorial content, you need to have something that you're trying to say and to have a viewpoint. And I think I've kind of, like, rediscovered it. And, you know, part of the commercial work that I'm doing now helped me figure that out. And the people that I'm surrounded by kind of have helped me find that again. And so I'm sort of in the process right now of throwing out almost everything that I've shot over the last few years and trying to reshoot everything, which is terrifying. But I think if you just are doing the same thing all the time, you're not progressing anyway. So you kind of have to take a little bit of that fear and just use it as energy, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens over the next, like, 6 months or so.
Where do you see that going? If, like, even maybe not necessarily 6 months, but even further down the line, do you have a vision at all?
No.
No.
No, I mean, I have some ideas about what I would like to accomplish. You know, I'd like to reshoot my book with a more consistent aesthetic and voice, which I feel like is, like, we're using these artsy terms. Like, I'm not an artsy person, but you really do kind of have to, like, you know, try and find what you're all about, and I'm trying to kind of rebrand and do a little bit of reimagining of what I want my work to be and what I want my look to look like and stuff like that. So hopefully, I'll get there and can start to sort of find clients that fall in line with that, and
pay you all the money.
Pay me all the money. Pay me or give me your money, please. I need it.
Sponsorships.
Right? Yeah. Hashtag sponsor me. But no, that's the goal. We'll see. I don't want to put a time frame on it, but I'd like to get a good chunk of my book reshot in the next 6 months or so, and start to kind of focus on doing things that I want to do again.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
All right. Can I take it back to the assistants?
Yeah, of course.
What's it take for someone to be your assistant? What's that? What can you tell a person that wants to be an assistant? What do they need to become an assistant? What do you need from an assistant?
I need somebody who's first and foremost easy to be around and easy to work with. Just be fun and personable. Nobody wants to be on set for 8 hours with somebody who's in a bad mood or something like that. That sucks. You get enough variables that you can't control on a shoot. You don't want to have the one person that you're bringing with you be a downer.
Yeah.
So that's first and foremost. And second is you just kind of have to. You got to be somebody who's willing to hustle a bit. Yeah, assisting is hard work physically, and it sort of takes time to develop a relationship with the photographer that you're assisting. And if over time you'll kind of start to anticipate what they're going to need or what they're going to want or what they like. And I wouldn't ever expect that from an assistant on the first day, but at the bare minimum, just be cool and be willing to, grind it out and do some work, because it's hard work, but I definitely think there's a lot of value in assisting. I'm not somebody who's super made it in the industry or anything like that, but I try to teach my assistants as much as I can and help them out as much as I can with whatever it is that they want to do. So it's kind of, there's always a give and take. So if you're willing to put out some work to help me out, I'm going to be willing to do whatever I can to help you out.
Yeah. Is there a certain skill base or skill set that they should have before they even approach?
Not necessarily, a basic understanding of just general group equipment and things like that is fine. I don't tend to do a ton of super complicated lighting setups or anything like that. If you can figure out how to put together an 8x8, scrim and throw up some light stands and schlep some sandbags around, you're probably going to be fine. And if not, if something more technical, super technical comes up, I would probably just hire a first assistant who's really experienced, and then that person would kind of fall into more of just just general assisting, help putting things together and moving stuff around, and hopefully learn a few things along the way. The little bit of time that I spent assisting, I learned quite a bit, and I wish I would have done a lot more of it personally.
Yeah.
You also have to check your ego at the door, which when I kind of started assisting, I had already been shooting for a while, and that was really hard for me. I don't like the way this person's shooting. I feel like I could do this better.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy. Or if you feel like that, just don't say anything. Obviously. And hopefully you get to that point where maybe you surpass the photographer that you started assisting. And if not, then hopefully you just remain friends. One of my best friends in the industry is a dude who I first assisted, and he will always probably for the rest of my life be a good friend of mine, and somebody that I will I'll go to him for advice, he'll come to me for advice, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
You just got back from a trip to Moab, and
Sure.
you've got some pretty fun stories from shooting on location for how long?
We were there for 4.5 days total. It was two full days of shoot, one full day of shooting we started, and then 2 half days. But they were a half day is a full day, and a full day is a day and a half. So it was a long shoot. It's 100 degrees. Moab is super hot, and there's no shade because nothing grows there. It's just dirt and cliffs, basically. But I have actually a full-time in-house shooting job, which not a lot. A lot of people in this industry go the freelance route. this is relatively recent for me, just within the last 3 months that I started working with this company. But our niche market is kind of Western fashion and also like denim and workwear and things like that. So we do a lot of shoots where we'll take a combination of models and then real working cowboys to a cool location and shoot interesting things. And so this week we happen to be shooting in Moab, and we were shooting a cowboy riding a bucking horse, which, like, I've been to rodeos before because I grew up in Colorado, and that's a thing there. But I'd never been, like, from me to you to, like, horse action. And so they're like, all right, we're going to shoot this bucking horse. So you got to stand outside the fence. And I'm like, okay, cool. Wooden fence. I'm safe. I'm just going to get right up against the fence, and I'm going to shoot whatever happens. And, like, these horses are super powerful. And the horse bucked the rider off within, like, the first 3 seconds because it was pissed and started careening around the arena and decided it wanted to find its way out. And that was like by breaking through the fence right next to my face.
Oh.
Like, probably, maybe not right next, but like 5 feet from where I was standing, the horse literally rammed its head through the fence, which was like scary. I was like, oh my God, is that horse okay? Oh wait, like I almost just died. Like, that was definitely an afterthought. And it was just like, you know, and you probably know, because since you come from a photojournalism background, you kind of develop this idea that your camera's a bit of a shield.
Yep.
And it sort of desensitizes you to what's going on in front of you.
That's so true.
And everybody was like, why didn't you move? I was like, because like it looked cool.
It looked,
like,
yeah.
I'm sure the pictures, the ones that are in focus, are going to be cool. And yeah, it's just like literally like trying to ram through the fence right by where I was standing. It was, in hindsight, I was like, wow, that was a little sketchy. But in the moment, I was like, I hope this is in focus. I hope this is in focus.
Yep.
But yeah, so week shooting models and cowboys out in the desert. And then about a month before that, we were shooting models and cowboys in Wyoming. So we do a lot of traveling and stuff like that for this job. And it's been fun. It's a lot of work, though.
Yeah, that's a long, when your regular full day is 15, 16 hours, that's a lot.
Yeah, like 5 a.m. or sometimes even like 4 a.m. call times, and then finishing at like 9 at night. Like, and then you're in the middle of nowhere, so then you got to drive an hour back to civilization. Like, you start to feel like a zombie after a while.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you don't get to just pass out because A, you're gross, you want to take a shower. And then like, oh, I got to shoot again tomorrow. So I got to like dump cards, charge batteries. Like, you know, it's definitely intense. And like on this particular shoot, we ran with a bit of a skeleton crew. So it was like 2 photographers, and we were switching back and forth between shooting and, you know, assisting and things like that. And it was nonstop, but we got some cool stuff.
Yeah, and how often are you guys doing that?
We travel and do location shoots probably every couple weeks or so. And then since we're full-time with this company, the rest of the time we're shooting like e-commerce and stuff like that. So we do all of the e-com like twice a week generally, like when we're in the office. And then it's, you know, editing and post-work and stuff like that the rest of the time. So it's like, this is the first time I've ever had like an in-house shooting job, which was like a weird change of pace. But it's been pretty cool so far. You know, there's pros and cons on both sides of the fence between freelance and in-house and stuff like that. But for now, it works. It's fun.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. And with having, because we're dual shooters, what was it like shooting? Were you guys shooting at the same time or shooting different things? Or
depends. We kind of, because we try and pack as much content into these trips as we possibly can. It varies. Like if we're shooting like the action type stuff, like the cowboy stuff, we'll just like, all right, you take a wide lens and I'll take a long lens, and then we kind of get like a dual coverage kind of thing. But then when we're shooting the more, you know, quote unquote fashiony stuff with the models and things like that, we'll kind of be like, we'll take sometimes 4 or 5 models. And so it's like, all right, we're going to do like a few hero shots. And then we'll break into like smaller groups that way, just because we have so much product to shoot and stuff like that. So like I'll go off and shoot something over there, and then they'll go off and shoot something else over there. We kind of mix it up, so we're all kind of shooting a lot, and then but we're all also like helping each other, which is cool. So I don't know how you guys do it. Like the dual role is tough. Like it can be.
I think it's almost like what you said. Like if we are tight, especially, that's the power of it. I'll take a wide. He'll take a long or mid or something.
Yeah.
And we can really just jam out really quickly. So that's a great benefit for the client.
Separate angles too.
And separate angles. So they get a bunch all at once. And I think there's a power, like a good power to that. And but then also on the other side, maybe we might butt heads here and there.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, no, not
All the time. We're constantly fighting. Hopefully not.
no. It's actually very cohesive.
That's good. And I feel like our team, like, because we were all friends before we joined this company, like we communicate pretty well together, and we all, it's a very collaborative thing, which is like, I've always been used to just, it's been my way or the highway, because, you know, living the freelance life as a solo shooter, at least, you just do things how you want to. So I think it's cool to learn, you know, a new skill set, and working in fashion is such a people-based, you know, interaction-based thing that it's a good skill set to have. So it's good to be able to collaborate with the people that you work with. And like, we've got a great creative director she's very, you know, she's got a great vision. So we get to kind of focus on like executing it and, you know, working together to do what we can to, like, you know, just make cool pictures, you know, with the content that we're given.
Yeah, a great creative director really saves the day.
Yeah. Huge. That definitely helps.
Yeah.
Or makes it really bad.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've worked with some creative directors in the past where I'm like, you don't even know what you want.
No, and they don't.
And sometimes you have to be, as a photographer, like, sometimes your job is to show people what they want, or show people that what they want is wrong.
Yeah.
like
It's so true.
I've kind of developed this like tactic where I'll like pull them aside and be like, look, I'm going to shoot it this way, the way that you want, and then I'll shoot it my way, and then we can see which one you like better. And 9 times out of 10, they'll ultimately end up using what I shot, that I, you know, where I shot it the way I wanted to. Just because they're idea people, and we're more like visual execution people. And sometimes they just don't know, they don't understand the medium or the technology, and you kind of have to like guide them a little bit. And a really experienced creative director will know what they can get away with and know what's possible and what's not. And like a brand new, straight out of school kind of creative director, you know, for maybe like a smaller brand, they're gonna have these huge, grand ideas with no concept of how to execute them. And you kind of have to like, okay, this is your goals and this is reality.
Well, the horse was a pretty crazy story, but have you had any other crazy stories?
Let's see. Actually, speaking of assisting, if Bogdan watches this, he's going to laugh his ass off. When I was assisting, we were doing a shoot in Miami, and he's like predominantly shoots swimwear. And I'm like waist deep in water with like a head on a, you know, stand, like holding it to keep it from the light from falling into the water. And I'm like, I think I just saw something move past me. And he was like, oh, it's probably nothing. He was like, no, seriously, like, I think I just saw a shark go by. And he's like, nah, I'm pretty sure it was a dolphin. And he looked at the model and he's like, it's a shark. And I had no clue, because like I was looking this way and he's like looking the other way. I'm just like, please don't get bit by a shark right now. And it was a shark. Like, as soon as I got out of the water, they were both like, yeah, that was totally a shark. I was like, you guys suck. So that was fun. That was like a fun assisting moment. And then, you know, I've had a lot of fun shoots. Like, I like to shoot on location, so it's like always a bit of an adventure. You know, just go out to the desert and, you know, wander around. You know, I've done like donuts in the sand to like create dust and things like that in my car. This is always a bit of an adventure shooting on location. But yeah, you just like, it's just as much about having fun for me. Like, the process and the moments, like creating the images, sometimes to me are like more fun than the actual results. Which I don't know if that's how things are supposed to be, but I just like, you know, being on set with people and having a good time and stuff like that. But it's always you know, you never know what you're gonna get.
Sharks and horses.
Yeah, it's always animals apparently.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. There's a trend going on here.
I always like, it's funny, I always joke around when I'm like getting to know a new model. I'm like, all right, so just FYI, at some point in the shoot, I'm gonna get injured, because it always happens. Like, horse tries to kill me, shark tries to eat me. Like,
there was that squirrel at Griffith Park.
Oh god, that squirrel like literally just ripped me to shreds. You know, I remember when I mentioned the warehouse that I lived in for a while. We had this huge wooden table. I was like, it's got great texture. I'm gonna shoot somebody laying on it, but it was, you know, it's a table, and if I want to shoot down on it, I've got to be really high. So I wound up putting a ladder on top of the table. And our landlord came around the corner, and I'm like 20 feet in the air on a ladder on top of the table, and he's just like, "What are you doing? Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is not smart." And I'm like, "Hey, but it's gonna be a cool picture. So if I fall, hopefully it'll be worth it."
Keep the camera up.
Right? Yeah, exactly. If I
Body
die,
break the fall.
exactly. If I die, just make sure you post it on Instagram and tag me in it. So that way I still get some followers post mortem. Yeah, it's always like, I feel like you kind of have to do something sketchy sometimes if you want to get something cool. And I'm all about taking a little risk here and there.
Thanks for joining us on Photowrk.
Coming up on the second half of our interview with Dana Pennington, he shares his tips on how to deal with difficult creative directors and how to move on from shooting new face models.
So we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching Photowrk. Please do us a favor and hit like and subscribe.
Yeah, and don't forget to comment and tell us some people that you want us to interview. Also, don't forget to check out our suggested videos.
Over here or over here, but somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.